In the shadowy corridors of global power, a silent war rages on. The prize? Not gold, not diamonds, but a dark, viscous substance that has shaped the fate of nations for over a century. Oil. This black gold isn't just fuel for our cars or planes. It's the lifeblood of modern civilization, the hidden puppet master pulling the strings of global politics and economics. Welcome to Left on Earth, where we expose the shocking truth about our planet's vanishing lifelines. Today, we're drilling into the world's most volatile resource, oil. It's not just fuel. It's the invisible puppet master of global politics and your daily life. Did you know the phone in your hand, the clothes on your back, and even your morning coffee are all tied to oil? This black gold isn't just powering your car, it's shaping world events, toppling governments, and deciding your economic future. But the bad news is that we're running out. Fast. The last drops of oil could trigger a global crisis that makes previous wars look like playground scuffles. Countries are already positioning for the final oil grab. Ready for a reality check? The truth about Earth's dwindling oil reserves will shatter everything you thought you knew about power, wealth, and survival in the 21st century. To understand the gravity of our current oil situation, we need to take a quick trip back in time. The modern oil era kicked off in the mid-19th century when the first commercial oil well was drilled in Pennsylvania. What followed was nothing short of a revolution. Oil powered the industrial age, fueled 2 world wars, and reshaped the global economy. But it wasn't until the 20th century that oil truly became the kingmaker of global politics. The rise of the automobile, the advent of air travel, and the petrochemical industry's boom all contributed to an insatiable thirst for oil. Countries with vast oil reserves suddenly found themselves catapulted to the world stage, while those without scrambled to secure their supply. The formation of OPEC, Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, in 1960 marked a turning point. For the first time, oil-producing nations banded together to control prices and production, wielding their newfound power like a weapon. The 1973 oil embargo showed just how vulnerable the world had become to oil's whims, as prices quadrupled almost overnight, sending shockwaves through the global economy. But perhaps the most significant development was the birth of the petrodollar system. In the 1970s, the U.S. struck a deal with Saudi Arabia. Oil would be priced in U.S. dollars, and in return, America would provide military protection. This arrangement cemented the dollar's status as the world's reserve currency and gave the U.S. unprecedented economic power. Oil's importance hasn't just shaped economies, it's redrawn borders, toppled governments, and ignited conflicts across the globe. Let's look at some of the most infamous oil wars that have shaped our modern world. The Iran-Iraq War of the 1980s, while rooted in long-standing regional rivalries, was fueled by both nations' desire to control the oil-rich regions along their shared border. The conflict lasted 8 brutal years, claimed over 1 million lives, and reshaped Middle Eastern politics for decades to come. Fast forward to '90, and we see Iraq's invasion of Kuwait, a blatant attempt to seize control of Kuwait's vast oil reserves. This act of aggression sparked the First Gulf War, drawing in a U.S.-led coalition to liberate Kuwait and protect Saudi Arabia's oil fields. But perhaps the most controversial oil war in recent memory was the 2003 invasion of Iraq. While officially justified as a response to alleged weapons of mass destruction, many critics argued that securing Iraq's oil reserves was a key motivating factor. The aftermath of the invasion saw Western oil companies gaining access to Iraq's previously nationalized oil industry, fueling suspicions about the war's true motives. These conflicts aren't just ancient history. Today, we see tensions rising in the South China Sea, where competing claims over oil and gas reserves threaten to spark a confrontation between China and its neighbors. In Venezuela, the world's largest proven oil reserves have become a source of political instability and international power plays. The message is clear: where there's oil, there's conflict. And as the world's reserves dwindle, the stakes only get higher. Now, let's dive into one of the most crucial yet least understood aspects of oil's dominance: its role in the global financial system. Remember that deal between the U.S. and Saudi Arabia we mentioned earlier? That agreement gave birth to the petrodollar system, which has shaped international trade and finance for the past 5 decades. Here's how it works. Since oil is priced and traded in U.S. dollars, any country that wants to buy oil needs to have a stockpile of dollars. This creates a constant global demand for U.S. currency. allowing America to run large trade deficits without tanking the dollar's value. It also gives the U.S. significant geopolitical leverage. Countries that go against American interests might find themselves cut off from the global oil market. But the petrodollar system does more than just benefit the U.S. It provides a degree of stability to the global oil trade by using a single, widely accepted currency. Oil-exporting countries accumulate vast reserves of U.S. dollars, which they often reinvest in U.S. Treasury bonds and other dollar-denominated assets. This recycling of petrodollars helps finance U.S. debt and keeps interest rates lower than they might otherwise be. However, this system isn't without its critics. Some argue that it unfairly benefits the U.S. at the expense of other nations, particularly developing countries that struggle to acquire enough dollars to meet their energy needs. Others worry that it makes the global economy too dependent on both oil and the U.S. dollar, creating potential instability. In recent years, we've seen challenges to the petrodollar's dominance. Countries like China and Russia have been pushing for oil trades in other currencies, and the rise of cryptocurrencies offers a potential alternative to traditional currency-based oil trading. But for now, the petrodollar remains a cornerstone of the global economic order, a testament to oil's enduring power. Now we come to the million-dollar question: how much oil is actually left on Earth? The answer, like most things in the world of oil, is complicated. According to recent estimates, there are approximately 1.65 trillion barrels of proven oil reserves left on Earth. That might sound like a lot, but at our current rate of consumption, about 100 million barrels per day, those reserves would last only about 47 years. But here's where it gets tricky. That 1.65 trillion barrel figure only includes proven reserves, oil that we know exists and can extract with current technology at current prices. There's likely much more oil out there that we haven't discovered yet, or that we can't economically extract with current methods. Some optimistic estimates suggest there could be as much as 3 trillion barrels of recoverable oil left, when you include unconventional sources like oil sands and shale oil. And then there's the vast amount of oil that's technically in the ground but currently impossible to extract. Some geologists estimate this could be as much as 3 trillion barrels more. However, these figures come with some big caveats. First, as we deplete the easy-to-reach oil, what's left becomes increasingly difficult and expensive to extract. We're already seeing this with the rise of fracking and deep-sea drilling, techniques that would have been economically unfeasible just a few decades ago. Second, not all oil is created equal. The light, sweet crude that's easiest to refine is becoming increasingly scarce. What's left tends to be heavier, sourer crude that's more expensive to process and produces more pollution. Finally, there's the elephant in the room: climate change. If we were to burn all the oil we can technically extract, we'd release an amount of carbon into the atmosphere that would make catastrophic global warming all but inevitable. This means that a significant portion of our remaining oil reserves may need to stay in the ground if we want to avoid the worst impacts of climate change. So, are we running out of oil? The short answer is not immediately, but the end of the oil age is definitely on the horizon. This brings us to the concept of peak oil, the point at which global oil production reaches its maximum rate, after which it will gradually decline. Some experts believe we've already hit peak oil, while others think it's still a few years or even decades away. But regardless of the exact timing, it's clear that we're entering the twilight years of the oil era. The easy oil is gone, and what's left will be increasingly costly and difficult to extract. This looming scarcity is driving a global race to secure the remaining oil reserves. Countries are staking claims on Arctic oil fields, pushing into deeper waters offshore, and developing unconventional oil sources like tar sands. But these efforts are often environmentally destructive and economically risky. At the same time, we're seeing a major push towards renewable energy sources. Solar and wind power are becoming increasingly cost-competitive with fossil fuels, and electric vehicles are starting to make serious inroads into the auto market. This energy transition is gaining momentum, driven by both environmental concerns and the realization that oil is a finite resource. But the transition won't be smooth or easy. Our global infrastructure is still heavily dependent on oil, and changing that will require massive investments and technological innovations. Moreover, countries and companies with a vested interest in oil will likely resist changes that threaten their power and profits. As we approach the end of the oil age, we're faced with both daunting challenges and exciting opportunities. The geopolitical map will be redrawn, as oil-producing nations lose their leverage and new powers rise based on their mastery of renewable technologies. The global financial system will need to evolve beyond the petrodollar, potentially ushering in a new era of international trade and currency relations. Industries will be forced to innovate, finding new materials to replace the countless oil-based products we rely on today. From plastics to pharmaceuticals, entire supply chains will need to be reimagined. This could lead to a new wave of technological breakthroughs and economic opportunities. The energy transition will also have profound implications for climate change. If handled well, it could help us avert the worst impacts of global warming. But if mismanaged, it could lead to economic disruption and increased global tensions. For individuals, the post-oil world will bring changes to nearly every aspect of daily life. The way we travel, the products we use, even the food we eat will all be affected. But it also offers the chance to build a more sustainable, equitable world, one less dependent on a single finite resource. As we conclude this episode of Left on Earth, remember that the story of oil is far from over. The decisions we make in the coming years, as individuals, as nations, and as a global community, will shape the future of our planet and our civilization. The next time you fill up your car or use a plastic product, remember, you're tapping into a resource that's not just finite, but that has shaped the course of human history. As we race towards the bottom of the global oil barrel, the question isn't just how much is left, but how we'll navigate the challenges and opportunities of a post-oil world. Stay tuned to Left on Earth as we continue to explore the critical resources that remain on our planet and what we can do to ensure a sustainable future for all. Until next time, keep questioning, keep innovating, and keep striving for a world where true wealth is measured not in barrels of oil, but in the health and happiness of all Earth's inhabitants.